Domain 2, Early Asian Civilizations, Lesson 13. You have already learned about one influential person from early Asia, Siddhartha Gautama, or the Buddha. Who was this individual? He was an Indian prince. He founded Buddhism, a widely practiced religion. Siddhartha's life in India was at first very easy. When he lived at his family's palace, he never knew of poor people or hunger or sickness. But then one day he ventured outside of the palace and he saw what was going on. He finally decided that he would give up all his worldly goods and discover what made you happy. Remember, he was born in India. Listen carefully today to find out about another influential person from Asia and what country this person was from. Long ago, in the Chinese kingdom of Lu, a baby was born. Known as Confucius, he was born at a time when all of China was experiencing great troubles. China, an enormous country, was divided into small areas ruled by many different leaders. No two leaders agreed with one another, and instead of listening to each other, they formed large armies and fought long, tiresome wars against one another. Robbers rode through the countryside hurting other people, and greedy leaders wanted to conquer all of China for their own selfish reasons. They did not care about the ordinary people who never had enough to eat and lived their lives in fear for their own safety. Confucius was born into a poor family more than 2,000 years ago. His father died when he was very young, but his mother believed that education was very important and made sure that he was able to learn from the many wise teachers in his village. Confucius also taught himself many subjects. He was happiest when studying history, learning about the ways in which people lived long before he was born. He learned that China had not always been so divided. It had once been a peaceful, united country ruled by wise sages. Sages are people who are known for their wisdom, who wanted to help their people. Confucius began to dream of a time in the future when people could live in peace in a peaceful land led by wise rulers and their sages once again. He wanted to spread the word that it was possible to live without wars and confusion. He wanted to give people hope for a better tomorrow. Confucius decided to spend his life educating others and teaching them how to live life in a more peaceful way. He began by trying to convince Chinese leaders of his ideas, but they were not interested. Although the Chinese leaders refused to listen to him, other people were eager to hear what he had to say. And eager means to have great interest or desire in something. As he taught his students how to build a peaceful country, Confucius would often begin his lessons by asking them to start with their own families. Do you fight amongst yourselves, he asked? Do you argue with your parents or steal from your brothers and sisters? Confucius reasoned that if people could not get along in small groups, how could they expect their leaders to control the behavior of whole cities and towns? Respect your parents, Confucius taught. Obey them and take care of them as they take care of you. If you practice kindness in your families, then you shall also practice kindness in your communities, and kindness will spread to all people in all parts of the land. Confucius's students would often ask him, how should we treat one another? His answer, always the same, sounded simple. Never do to others what you would not like them to do to you, he replied. Do you recognize these words? Have you heard them before? These words have the same meaning as the saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Many groups of people have similar sayings, such as with the same meaning. This particular saying is often called the Golden Rule, because it is believed to be a very important way for people to live their lives. Confucius believed in the Golden Rule and felt that if people always treated one another with kindness, the world would be a better place. Confucius also believed that if leaders were able to stop all wars, feed the hungry, and make sure that people were safe in their cities and towns, everyone could live in a happier world. These were just a few of the ideas Confucius shared with others. Confucius also believed that education was very important and tried to share this belief with many people. Confucius thought that it was necessary to continually study and learn in order to become a sage or a wise person. In ancient China, as in many countries long ago, only people with money were allowed to go to school. Confucius thought that this was wrong. He believed that all people, rich and poor, should have equal opportunities to learn. Learning never stops according to the teachings of Confucius. A wise person learns from others in and out of school. Confucius meant that although you might learn important information about history and literature in school, you could also learn a great deal about how to behave toward one another outside of school. Have you ever heard of learning by example? If your teacher shouted all day long, then his or her example might make you think that this was the right way to behave, so you might begin to shout all day long too. But if your teacher spoke politely, then you might be more apt to speak politely too. You learn how to speak by example. Confucius had devoted students. After he died, some students thought his ideas were so important that they wrote them down in a book called the Analects. And this is an image of a page from the Analects. This book formed the basis of Confucianism, a way of thinking that is practiced widely around the world today, particularly in China, South Korea, Vietnam, and Japan. So Confucianism is not a religion, but it's just a way of thinking. Schools were even created to teach the sayings of Confucius, founded in the Analects. If you ever hear someone quote Confucius, perk up your ears and listen closely. You will probably hear something very wise indeed.
Okay, boys and girls, we're going to go ahead and take some notes on Confucius. So grab your lesson 5 notes and glue it onto the next blank page in your fact files. Okay. Okay, so let's look at our notes for today. So Confucius was a teacher who lived in China from 551 BC to 479 BC. So our first blank on our notes, we're going to add the word teacher. Don't forget you can pause this, as I'm probably going to go through this quicker than you can keep up, and that's just fine. Go ahead and pause it. Next, it says his teaching focused on having right blank and right blank. That's going to be having right relationships and right actions. So I started writing that before I showed you guys. Relationships and right actions. And again, you can pause it. Finally, his teachings, such as honor your ancestors, influenced Chinese civilization. Honor. Honor is a word that has a silent H at the front. Honor your Ancestors. Ancestors are the people that came before you in your family. When we are done, we're going to go ahead and glue in the rest of our Chinese, ancient Chinese notes. So on the next blank page, go ahead and you're going to glue in lesson 6. We're just going to have these in here. And lesson 7. So, whoops. Again, if you have to pause, that's fine. But there's lesson 6 and lesson 7. Once we are finished with these notes, we will have a test on just the ancient India and the ancient Chinese portions of our notes next week. But we will add our modern Japan notes as well, but we will not be tested on those. We're just going to learn the information. So go ahead and make sure you're studying all of your notes from ancient Asian civilizations. We'll finish up 2 more sets of notes, and then you will take a test next week.